Elmer, thanks for joining me today, buddy.
Hey, good to be here.
I just wanted to ask you some questions about your success stories. I know a lot of times people will ask about their first deal, somebody new to the business. So if you could, maybe share with us about your first deal that you did.
Yeah, definitely. Like we say, we always remember the first deal, and mine was something to remember. Um, it was a piece of land. It was just raw land, and I didn't think much of it. I thought I'm going to go easy, just raw land, no house, no nothing, just make it easy, and get through the first one. And I got it under contract, piece of land just down the road from where I live now, and everything was going well. And then about a month or two into it, I started getting people showing up to the property claiming that it was their property. They were drug addicts. It was not a fun situation. It was a pretty dangerous situation. And I know the first thing I did, being, Tim, you're my mentor, is I called you and you said, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky." And I thought you were insane. I said, "I'm lucky." He said, "Yeah, if your first deal is going to be this difficult, all the other deals moving forward are just going to be the easiest things you've done." And I just thought, "Tim, you're insane. I don't believe you." But in hindsight, you were 1000% correct, because that was the deal. That was the most hectic deal. I had to go to court. I had to do this, but it made me strong. It gave me such a thick skin that everything else was just the easiest thing possible. And yeah, I mean, got the squatters out, got this. I still made, really good money on it, but the experience back then, I didn't want to go through it, but now I'm saying I'm glad I went through it, because it really changed my outlook on things and made me that much stronger. It educated me more, not just of, things, but in doing so in future deals, I was able to avoid litigation. I was able to avoid a lot of things because I knew what it is that they want out of things. So I was able to do things, cash for keys, just talk to the person,
Yeah.
some understanding. So understanding how far and how deep it can get, it allowed me to really nip it in the bud if it ever happened in the future. So thank you, Tim. And yeah, it was a crazy one, but it
Yeah,
taught me a lot.
it's like if you either succeed or you learn, you never fail. It's always something you learn from every experience we have in life.
Yes.
There was a deal I always talk about in class. I remember, I don't know which deal it was, but there was a property you had under contract. And from what I recall, you went to the investors club and there were some hard money lenders that you approached, and they said, "Yeah, we don't have any money. Our money's all tied up." And you said, "What do I do?" And I said, "Well, the price is probably too high. You should just go back and renegotiate."
Mm-hmm.
And I think you had a contract for like maybe 75. And then when you went back, they reduced it to 50 grand.
Yes.
And then when you
Yes.
went back to the hard money lenders, all of them had magically had the money, because you found out that the land value was a lot higher than what, once you
Yes.
done some research. So you ended up making like 17 grand on the deal or something. I think there was a check you sent me with your photo smiling.
That was actually my first wholesale deal. And what
Yeah,
it
there
was
you go. Yeah.
is the person wanted $100,000 for it, and it was just dilapidated home. I mean, it was disgusting. And then I think I offered 50. I cut it in half, and they're like, "Oh no, we can't do that because it's too much, but we'll accept 60." And it was funny because it was actually my very first deal. And I looked at you and I said, "Tim, I don't have $60,000."
Yeah.
And you laughed. And you said, "This is a wholesale deal." And that was my first wholesale deal. What ended up happening is I wholesaled it to somebody who's been looking at it forever, and he goes, and I think I listed it for 75. That was it, to make
Okay.
the $10,000. And he said, "How did you make them go down $25,000? They wouldn't go down a penny for me." And I just laughed because it was really, I looked at what was going on, and what was going on, it was the neighbor didn't want to give access to the driveway, which he couldn't do that anyway. So once I figured out what the problem was and was able to solve it, then I was actually able to fix it and sell it, which is something the other person didn't do. So yeah, it's just knowledge, just knowing what you're doing and knowing how to do it right. So yeah, that was it was a difficult one, but yeah, I made 17 grand.
Yeah.
First wholesale deal.
Nice.
Something like
Okay. Yeah. So tell me about your mentorship.
that. Best thing that's ever happened to me. I've always wanted to do real estate investing, but you got so many moving parts. It was overwhelming for me. I thought. But then I got my mentorship with Tim, and the way he broke things down, it was just step by step, easy to do, easy to manage, easy to understand. And even if, deals came up that I just said, "Wow, this is something totally new. I don't know what I'm doing, or I forgot," or whatever the situation was, Tim was always there. Tim would always answer, be available, answer any questions I had, give me detail. I mean, everything I needed, Tim was there. And that was one of the things that I found pretty amazing, because I have taken other classes before, and I spoke to, I don't know if he was a CEO, but I asked him, be blunt with me, the amount of people to take these courses, how many actually succeed? in this. And he was very hesitant in telling me, but he actually said that 97% of people didn't do anything with it. 3% of people actually did something, and even less succeeded to the point of graduating. And I thought, well, that's insane, because why would somebody want those odds, against them and not doing it? And I come to realize it was all about your mentor, who your mentor is, how much they not necessarily push you, because you want to do this. It's something you're investing in yourself, but the amount of information, and what Tim did and still does probably, is he gives you, I don't like to call them homeworks, but you do deals, you practice a lot, you do things where things become easy, and I looked at other mentorship programs and I looked at different things, and it was just like, yeah, you're on your own. I taught you this, now go ahead and do it. But they don't really tell you that it's not a single road. Real estate, you can do real estate a billion different ways, and they teach you one way. And Tim was there, and he's very knowledgeable in knowing every single way to do them. And I thought that was very amazing, because I felt I had a friend, not just a mentor, but a friend, and we've been friends for, God, many, many years now. And I know I can still call him, and I still do. So I think for me, that's the biggest thing. Don't be scared. Do your homework. I hate saying that. I didn't really like school growing up, but do your homework and practice, 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 and it will work out. Because it's all a numbers game. This is a numbers game. You practice enough times, you're going to get the deal, and then you do it once, and you're hooked, because it's fun. So thank you, Tim.
Oh, you're welcome, man. I think looking back, it was like 2012, I think, 11 or 12, right around there. So it's been more than 10 years, easy. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
12 years.
It was 2012 is when we met.
Yeah. Cool. So how are you doing now? Like, are you wholesaling, flipping, doing rentals, or are you doing a multitude of everything, or how's that going?
A little bit of everything. What I ended up doing is I had a lot of rentals. I had about, at one point, I want to say 22 rentals, and my head was about to explode, because it was always something, always something. And one of the hardest things to do is actually take out some of the equity from that property. So a lot of properties I owed almost nothing on, and had hundreds of thousands in equity that I really couldn't access. So what I started doing is I started selling these properties, and I started buying a lot of raw lands. I owner finance a lot of raw lands. They finance everything else. And it was, it's like you get the bigger chunks and you split them into smaller chunks, and you kind of help yourself out, because if one person doesn't make a payment, it affects you even less. Whether if you have, 1 or 5 properties or 20, even for every single home, if somebody doesn't make their payment and you have a mortgage on it, it affects you. But if you break it down to smaller pieces, it's a lot more manageable. So that's kind of the route I'm going. So that's kind of how I do it. I try to get the bigger chunks and then try to spread them out, a little different. So then that way the risk is not really that great for me. So yeah, I still do wholesales. Like I said, I consider myself retired, because, I'm able to be home all day, spend time with my family, do things, do whatever I want with whoever I want at any time I want. And for me, that's the definition of being rich. So for me, I said, I'm rich because I have time, and I enjoy that, because that's the most valuable thing for me is time. But if a deal comes my way, I'm doing it. It's a fun thing to do. Real estate for me has become something fun. And if I can help somebody else along the road, then why not?
Nice. It's all about life, my friend.
I agree. You got to
Yeah.
enjoy it.